Judi and I go back quite a long way. It was at the Old Vic, and we shared a dressing room.
At the Cheltenham Literature Festival, Dame Judi Dench could not hold back her tears when the host mentioned the passing of Dame Maggie Smith.
Half a century ago.
Half a century
That would be
ago.
50 years
Yes.
ago.
Yes,
Yeah.
1958.
Yeah. And became good friends?
Yes.
The 89-year-old actress's choked silence spoke volumes for the pain of losing a soulmate. Behind the brilliant aura of a legend holding the triple crown of acting, Maggie Smith's life was a series of tumultuous events, from fierce competition and marital rifts to a silent battle with illness. This video will uncover never-before-told secrets and the extraordinary journey of the woman who shaped the world of cinema. Born on December 28, 1934 in Ilford, Essex, Margaret Natalie Smith grew up in a relatively strict middle-class family atmosphere. Her father, Mr. Nathaniel Smith, was a microbiologist working at Oxford University, while her mother, Mrs. Margaret Hutton, was a Scottish secretary with a highly practical and stern mindset. This very environment, which emphasized education and stability, unintentionally created a massive barrier when Maggie began to harbor dreams of stepping onto the sacred stage. Mrs. Margaret Hutton always believed that her daughter did not possess a standard glamorous appearance enough to become a star as the society of that era expected. The first turning point occurred in 1950 when Maggie Smith was 16 years old and studying at the Oxford High School for Girls. When she gathered all her courage to express her desire to abandon her academic path to pursue an acting career, her mother's reaction became a deep scar in her mind for many decades to follow. In an in-depth interview with the New York Times, Maggie Smith recalled her mother's cold warning. "You can't be an actress with a face like that. You'd better learn something practical like being a secretary." In the face of fierce opposition and a tense atmosphere engulfing the family, Maggie Smith remained steadfast in her choice. In 1951, she decided to leave high school to enroll at the Oxford Playhouse School, a well-known acting training institution at the time. To afford tuition and the expensive cost of living in Oxford, she worked hard at various part-time jobs, from backstage, assisting and cleaning, to heavy manual labor. From 1951 to 1952, she continuously auditioned for roles big and small, only to face cold rejections from casting directors because her sharp acting style had not blended with what was expected at the time. Looking back at those struggling early years of her soulmate, Dame Judi Dench, later shared with utmost empathy and respect, Maggie fought fiercely right from the start. The skepticism from her family or the rejections from the world could not extinguish the innate fire within her. From a young age, she was a warrior on stage, someone who never accepted backing down. Silent perseverance through hardships finally found a small ray of light to prove her capability. In 1952, at the age of 17, Maggie Smith had her first official role on the professional stage as Viola in the Grand Master William Shakespeare's play Twelfth Night at the Oxford Playhouse itself. This role required a sharp sensitivity and a deep empathy for the character, which the young girl completed excellently beyond expectations. Initial praise from local experts provided a powerful motivation, helping her continue to perseveringly appear in subsequent productions such as Cinderella or The Government Inspector. Initial success at home laid a solid foundation for a historic leap in Maggie Smith's career in 1956. She was chosen to join the revue musical project titled New Faces of 56 and officially made an impressive debut on Broadway, New York. Returning to her home country in 1957, she continued to assert her status as a rising star in the West End when starring alongside Kenneth Williams in Share My Lettuce. Continuous efforts and Maggie Smith's innate talent through a decade of honing finally brought her reputation to the attention of managers at the prestigious Old Vic Theatre. The destined encounter with powerful names at the Old Vic prepared her for a journey straight into the heart of artistic glory, a place that would also anticipate terrible mental pressures along with the fiercest competitions in the next phase. The legendary Slap. Stepping into the ranks of official actors at the National Theatre at the Old Vic in the early 1960s, Maggie Smith quickly became the center of attention thanks to her sharp acting mindset and innate ability to master the stage. This powerful rise brought her into a dramatic collision course with Lawrence Olivier, the most powerful man in the temple of British theatre at the time. Olivier possessed a grand artistic ego. He always demanded absolute submission from his co-stars and tended to overshadow anyone sharing a frame with him. The appearance of an intelligent, stubborn, and unyielding Maggie Smith aroused a complex contradiction. Within Olivier, he both admired and felt deeply threatened by the growing aura of his young colleague. The highly tense relationship between these two great personalities officially reached its climax in 1964, when they co-starred in the classic play Othello. In this production, Olivier took on the lead role of Othello while Maggie Smith portrayed the unfortunate wife Desdemona. During a live performance in front of hundreds of audience members at the climactic scene when Othello's furious jealousy erupted, Lawrence Olivier took an action that went beyond the boundaries of mere acting. He delivered a powerful slap straight to Maggie Smith's face right on stage, leaving the actress completely stunned and in physical pain. The incident happened so suddenly that the entire auditorium held its breath with her resilient bravery. She maintained her professional demeanor, continued her lines, and completed the scene perfectly without showing a single flaw. This shocking incident was not a fabricated backstage secret. It was directly confirmed by Maggie Smith herself on the television program The Graham Norton Show. She recalled that humiliating but proud moment with astonishing calmness. "I remember that slap very well. It was so hard that I saw stars before my eyes. All I thought at the time was that I must keep standing to finish the performance." Instead of letting herself panic or choosing to compromise before Olivier's power, Maggie Smith used her own exceptional talent to strike back. Her resilience turned Desdemona into one of the brightest highlights of the entire production, indirectly asserting that she would never accept backing down before any pressure or suppression from established forces. Witnessing that bravery of her close friend at the Old Vic, Judi Dench later recalled, Maggie possessed an incredibly sharp mind and a wonderful sense of humor. When performing with Laurence Olivier, she never let herself be overshadowed. She stood there confronting him directly as an equal. The role of Desdemona subsequently brought her the first Oscar nomination of her career in the Best Supporting Actress category, when the work was adapted to the big screen in 1965. Her relationship with Olivier over many years followed was always a picture of paradox blending deep respect in terms of artistic expertise and underlying rifts that could not be healed. They continued to work together in major productions such as The Master Builder and Much Ado About Nothing, where Maggie always held her head high as an equal adversary rather than a shadow serving Olivier's ego. The most brilliant turning point of this decade came in 1969, when she took on the role of an eccentric, free-thinking teacher in the film The Prime of Miss Jean Brodie. Her sublime, captivating, and groundbreaking performance completely conquered global experts, helping her surpass a series of heavy candidates to win her first Oscar for Best Actress. The prestigious newspaper, the New York Times at the time, showered her with the warmest praise, affirming that Maggie Smith had set a new standard for contemporary acting art. This glorious victory propelled the name of the once-doubted girl to the pinnacle of world fame, where she was sought after and respected as a new artistic icon. Right at the most brilliant moment of her career, her personal life began to show its first dark rifts. The tragedies lurking behind the velvet curtain of her first marriage were preparing to drag her into a deep pit of trials, where bitter private secrets were about to be exposed in a humiliating manner. The Marital tragedy. Behind the brilliant aura of the prestigious Oscar statuette, Maggie Smith's private life fell into a series of dark and suffocating days. In 1967, she married actor Robert Stevens, her talented co-star, and the father of her two young sons, Chris Larkin and Toby Stevens. In the newspapers of that era, they were hailed as a power couple, a new romantic symbol of British theater as they shone together in the film The Prime of Miss Jean Brodie. The reality behind the family doors was a completely opposite story. Stevens' career declined as his wife's shadow grew too large, driving him into a spiral of jealousy, heavy alcoholism, and prolonged depression. To relieve his own frustration, Stevens began to indulge in extramarital affairs, leaving Maggie alone to shoulder the finances and raise the children. The climax of the Marital tragedy struck in the early 1970s when Robert Stevens participated in the film project The Private Life of Sherlock Holmes. Work pressure combined with psychological instability led Stevens to attempt suicide, which failed. This event left Maggie Smith completely exhausted mentally, as she had to constantly attend to her husband at the hospital, while trying to protect her children from the aggressive pursuit of the media. In an in-depth interview with the New York Times, Maggie Smith painfully confessed about this crisis period. "I completely did not understand what was happening at that time, and everything was truly incredibly painful. I tried to do everything possible to keep my family from collapsing completely." Maggie Smith's endurance finally reached its limit when a humiliating secret about her husband's loyalty was exposed in an unexpected way. During a routine dental visit, Maggie met a dentist who was a mutual friend of the couple. While she was in that fateful dentist's chair, this friend, overwhelmed by a guilty conscience, suddenly confessed a shocking truth to her. Robert Stevens was having a prolonged illicit relationship with the secretary at the clinic, and that secretary was also Stevens's longtime mistress outside. Discovering her husband's betrayal randomly and humiliatingly from the mouth of an acquaintance dealt a fatal blow to Maggie Smith's self-esteem, making her realize that all efforts to save this marriage were completely pointless. Realizing her partner had not only betrayed her, but was also suffering from severe bipolar depression, leading to impulsive, harmful behaviors toward the family, Maggie Smith made a decisive choice. In 1973, she officially filed for divorce, closing 6 years of marriage filled with humiliation and tears with Robert Stevens. After parting ways, Stevens cut off almost all contact, showing no concern or support for raising the 2 young children, leaving Maggie to fend for herself amidst the storms of life. The pain of heartbreak and bitter betrayal seemed to have frozen the heart of the talented artist, leaving her with no faith in love. In her most desperate and exhausted days, a peaceful harbor from the past returned to warm her soul. Beverly Cross, the talented playwright who had been secretly in love with Maggie since their youth, appeared at just the right time to shield her and walk with her through deep wounds. Witnessing this rebirth of her soulmate, Dame Judi Dench later shared movingly about Beverly Cross's love for Maggie. "Beverly adored Maggie ever since they were young. He waited for her all those years, and when they found each other among the ruins, he brought her peace, protecting her in a way that no one else in this world could." The appearance of Cross opened a happy new chapter in her life. The cruel fate seemed unwilling to let go of this resilient woman. Harsh trials of life and death separation and a silent battle with illness were waiting for her ahead. The silent battle with cancer. Following the storms of her first marriage, the years living with her second husband, Beverly Cross, were the most peaceful and happy period in Maggie Smith's life. Cross was not only an understanding partner, but also a solid pillar, stepping into the fatherly role to love and raise her 2 stepchildren for over 20 years. Happiness was short-lived. In March 1998, Beverly Cross suddenly passed away after a period of battling cardiovascular disease. The departure of the man she considered her bedrock dealt a devastating psychological blow to Maggie Smith. In a tearful interview published later in the New York Times, the actress choked up as she expressed her extreme loneliness. "I truly don't know what to do without him. Life suddenly became empty and seemed to lose all meaning when there is no one by your side to share it with." Before the pain of losing her partner could fade a decade later at the age of 73, Maggie Smith faced another harsh life and death trial. In 2007, during the filming of the blockbuster Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, the actress unexpectedly received a diagnosis of breast cancer after a routine health check. For a woman in her twilight years, this information was no different from a cruel sentence that could extinguish all will to fight. Instead of choosing to withdraw from the project to focus on treatment or asking the crew to postpone the shooting schedule, Maggie Smith made a decision that astonished everyone. She chose to undergo chemotherapy while continuing to stand on set to complete her role as Professor Minerva McGonagall. The silent battle with illness took place under strict confidentiality to avoid causing panic among the public and fans. Behind the magical scenes lay a brutal reality, as Maggie Smith's body was heavily ravaged by high-dose chemotherapy sessions. Her severely declining health meant she constantly suffered from exhausting nausea. Her body was so tired that she could not move on her own, and she lost all her hair. To appear before the camera with the majestic demeanor of a deputy headmistress, she had to wear a wig for hours on end, enduring the suffocating heat of the studio and forcing herself to deliver each line accurately. Her resilience was so immense that many colleagues and crew members at the time were completely unaware of the veteran actress's critical health condition. An iron spirit and absolute dedication to art finally helped Maggie Smith triumph over both death and illness. After 2 years of resilient treatment, she was officially declared completely cancer-free by doctors in 2009, just before the final film of the franchise began shooting. Resiliently overcoming adversity not only preserved Maggie Smith's life, but also prepared a powerful launchpad for her to enter the final chapter of her career. Stepping out of the darkness of cancer, she had no intention of resting, immediately embracing a new opportunity, a role that would completely change her life in her XECU years. The late glory. In 2010, she officially accepted the role of Violet Crawley, the Dowager Countess of Grantham, in the historical period drama series Downton Abbey, penned by screenwriter Julian Fellowes. Initially, this was merely viewed as a standard television drama project by ITV to recreate British aristocratic life in the early 20th century. No one could have expected that this work would ignite a fanatical global phenomenon, pushing Maggie Smith's name to a new pinnacle of fame that she herself had never witnessed during the peak of her youth in previous decades. With a haughty British aristocratic demeanor combined with deeply sarcastic lines and subtle comedic expressions, her character Violet Crawley quickly became the soul and the most beloved pop culture icon of the entire work. The character's iconic questions such as "What is a weekend?" quickly became trending phrases across social media platforms, helping a veteran actress reach a brand new generation of audiences, those who did not even know of her Oscar-winning works from her youth. The resounding success and far-reaching influence of Downton Abbey, spanning 6 seasons from 2010 to 2015, brought Maggie Smith a collection of America's most prestigious television awards, including 3 Emmy Awards and a Golden Globe for Best Supporting Actress. This exploding aura in her later years also brought annoying consequences, completely disrupting the peaceful life of a woman who had entered her 80s. Her privacy, carefully preserved for decades, was suddenly violated as paparazzi and enthusiastic fans were always waiting, tracking, and surrounding her every small move in all public spaces. More notably, this excessive fame occasionally made her feel pressured to always maintain the sharp, majestic image of an old lady as seen on screen, whereas in real life, she only desired tranquility to contemplate life. Maggie Smith even candidly shared in a television conversation that she had never actually watched a single full episode of Downton Abbey because she always felt uncomfortable seeing her aging face appear with high frequency on the big screen, defying the heavy psychological pressures and the inevitable physical decline of old age. Maggie Smith continued to dedicate all her remaining strength to art until the final years of her life. She continued to bring the legendary character Violet Crawley from the small screen to the big screen through 2 feature films of the same name in 2019 and 2022 as a deep expression of gratitude to the millions of loyal viewers who had accompanied her for more than a decade. The professionalism, steadfastness, and pride of an artistic legend were maintained by her entirely until September the 27th, 2024, when she peacefully drew her last breath at the Chelsea and Westminster Hospital in London at the age of 89, officially closing a journey of over 70 years of dedicated service to the Temple of World Art. The passing of Dame Maggie Smith left an immeasurable, unfillable void in the hearts of her family, friends, colleagues, and millions of fans across generations around the world. Like the choked tears of her soulmate Judi Dench at the Cheltenham Literature Festival, the memory of Maggie is not just about prestigious Oscar statuettes, glittering Emmy Awards, or outstanding roles on screen. It is an inspiring story of a woman who lived an extraordinary life. If you also love the resilient journey and great talent of the late star Maggie Smith, please share this video, and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss deep backstage stories about world cinema legends.